Hi, my name is Elizabeth Hewitt, and today I will be conducting an experiment on paper chromatography. Paper chromatography is a way to separate ink dyes in pens. Using different solvents, the ink will supposedly move onto the paper, but that is the goal of the experiment, to find out if ink moves on a strip of chromatography paper if using different solvents. My hypothesis is yes, but we'll see. The retention factor, or RF, is described as the difference of the movement of the dye as compared to the solvent. So the question is, does the RF factor vary when using different solvents to dissolve and perform the lab? If the ink in a pen has different solvents to be dissolved and performed with, then the RF should change. Let's get started. First, you will need two 140 milliliter beakers. Then you will need 10 milliliters of isopropyl alcohol. You will then need 10 milliliters of acetone. You will also need one black Bic gel pen. Now, in a normal experiment, you would use 2 watch glasses to cover the beakers, but instead we will be using 2 filter papers. You also need 1 ruler and filter papers to cut into strips to use for the experiment. So let's begin. First, we will be filling the 2 different beakers, one with 10 milliliters of isopropyl alcohol and the other with acetone. For safety first. And we will cover them with the filter paper. We will now cut the filter paper into 0.5 centimeter by 8 centimeter strips, approximately. We will now mark 2 marks. The first mark will be 1 centimeter from the bottom. This will be where we let the solvent grow until it's time to check the paper. We will now make a mark 5 centimeters from that mark. This mark will represent where we're going to mark the dot of the ink onto the paper. Now we mark the ink dots on the paper. And we'll wait 30 minutes or until they reach the other mark that we made with our pencil. Having just completed the experiment, I made an example of what our results were. So for trial 1 of alcohol, the difference between where the yellow dye moved and 0 was 4.8. And the difference between where the yellow dye moved in trial 2 and 0 was 4.9 in trial 2. So what we would do to find the RF factor for trial 1 was take 4.8 divided by 5 and get 96 for our RF factor. Then for trial 2 we would take 4.9 centimeters divided by 5 centimeters and get 98% for our RF factor. And then to find the average for this, we would take this plus this divided by 2, which equals this. And this would be the average RF factor for alcohol in both of the trials. So to find acetone, we would do about the same thing. We would take the ending of the yellow dye for acetone and divide that by 5, and we would get 42% for our RF factor in trial 1. Then we would do the same thing for trial 2, which would take the end of the yellow and divide by 5, and we would get 48 for our RF factor. And we would take this plus this divided by 2, which equals 45. And that shows that alcohol and acetone are very different solvents when it comes to paper chromatography.